Greetings again, dear lovely viewer. Totally amazing here, the home of scientific knowledge, truth, discovery, research, and of course, the universe. Since the 1st of January 2K19. Now, I'm only wearing my lovely attire here just for the purposes of a sort of debunk video. And needless to say, while I have a few days off, because of this video, I'm going to need some of this. Let's just set the scenes of who we're dealing with and talk about exactly what we're dealing with, and then we can get cracking. So, we're talking about flat Earth. Yeah. Now you begin to understand why we're going to need some cigarettes and some drink. Because this is a subject that's going to do my head in, more than likely. But anyway, again, let's just set the scene of who we're dealing with. Flat earthers believe that the Earth is flat because they saw it on a flag. Oh yes. Something like that, which is an azimuth equidistal projection. There we are. Okay. Or rather, an azimuth equidistant projection, rather, which is just basically a 2D representation of a 3D object, in which case of a globe. Now, again, let's just sort of set the standards of who we're dealing with. Flat earthers believe that, yes, again, we live on a flying pizza, or pizza-shaped object, created by a psychopathic sky fairy, or an invisible psychopathic sky fairy or sky wizard, and our planet is actually contained within an imaginary or sort of an invisible cloche, meaning mid-dome. But it gets more ridiculous, because they believe that the sun is 32 miles in diameter. It's at a height of 3,000 miles, that the sun revolves around the Earth, and that the moon is a sort of failed, malfunctioned star. And that also revolves around the Earth. Needless to say, and of course, that aircraft can't travel above 36,000 feet, that Airbus, none of their aircraft travel above 36,000 feet, and that you can't see the curvature of Earth, period, and that somehow aircraft windows are too small in any event. Needless to say, we're going to need some proof of this, and I'm sure we can have a look at their website and see all of the proof. Now we know who we're dealing with, let's get cracking. So again, flat earthers believe that the Earth is flat because they saw it on a flag, as we can see. Now, there is one guy that goes by the name of Mark. The Earth is not a globe, it's actually a pizza, Sargent. And you might not be able to see this zoomed in properly, but here's one of his YouTube channels that seems to have 79,000 subscribers. So 79,000 people that have brought into his beliefs and ideas. Quite incredible. So, needless to say, I got involved in this, and I posted a comment right here saying, can someone within this flat earth movement explain just what's fueling the sun how it's getting its energy. That's not worked very well. There we are. How it's getting its energy and what method of energy conversion is being used. Now, I said I was on the fence about all this flat earth stuff, but I'm not really. I just wanted to get a ruse out of several people to see what they were going to say about it. Needless to say, I've had a few interesting comments. But anyway, let's go more in depth. Let's just close that down and have a look at the Flat Earth Society. This is their webpage, which will be linked, I'm sure. Maybe. And there's some frequently asked questions. And if we scroll down, there's the Flat Earth map, which is actually the UN logo. Oh, and for the record, these people also believe that people like Airbus are lying to you, that Boeing and Lockheed Martin are conspirators as well, and that NASA and the government are hiding the truth, of course. But again, they don't really tell you why, other than the fact that apparently this is meant to cause such a stir for humankind. Quite why that the shape of the Earth, whether it be an oblate spheroid, which it pretty much is, or whether or not it's flat or square or cucumber shaped or whatever, why it would even matter. But anyway, we're looking at the sun here on this one. And here we can see this rather ridiculous and hilarious little model. And the magic flying spotlight, which is this so-called sun, and the sort of failed malfunction star that happens to be a moon. Because, of course, the only way that such a model would be possible is if both of those objects had a similar mass, which they don't. Because something like that would be actually a binary system anyway. I mean, it's not just stars that could be like this, it's various other objects of a similar mass that would be able to orbit around each other. But this model poses something of a problem, and we're going to look at the reasons why. Now, let's first of all get to the first main problem, and the website here is wiki.tfes.org/flat-earth, frequently asked questions, and how do you explain the day, 2 night cycles. This will be linked. Where are we? Let's get down to this. Okay, let's just start with the whole passenger jet problem. Okay, let's just zoom in a little bit. You may or may not be able to actually read this, but I'll narrate it for you anyway. So it says, as a passenger on an aircraft, how is it I can see the curvature of Earth? And they go on to hilariously say, quite simply, you cannot. Well, first of all, that's a problem, because actually, yes, you can. You can see the curvature of Earth from an aircraft anyway. Indeed, you could while Concorde was in service, and that had a ceiling height of around 60,000 feet, and the Blackbird SR-71A, that has a ceiling height even higher. And indeed, anything over sort of 40,000 feet, of course you can. And in fact, actually, you can see the curvature of Earth slightly at sea level in any event. But let's move on. It says it's widely stated that you would need to be at a height of at least 40,000 feet to even get a hint of curvature if the Earth was round. No, you don't. You can actually witness this at ground level, and there's been numerous people that have proven this. It also hilariously goes on to say, commercial aircraft are not allowed to fly this high. They don't actually explain why they're not allowed to fly this high. That's actually false. Now, whereas some passenger jets can't fly that high because of what's known as a service ceiling height, this isn't true for, let's just say, Airbus, the A380. A sleek, rather beautiful piece of machinery. And let's have a look at what Emirates have to say on their aircraft specifications. And we will see quite clearly that this is from Emirates website. This is emirates.com, English/flying/our fleet, and the specifications. And this is for the standard Class 2 and Class 3s, which are the 489 ultra long range, also the 517 long range, and the Class 2 615 long range wide bodied version. Wingspan 261 feet and 8 inches. The length of the actual aircraft is 230 feet, well 238 feet and 6 inches, and its height is 79 feet and 7 inches. Cabin width is obviously 21 feet 7 inches, and the main deck, 6.58 metre main deck and 19 feet 5 inches slash 5.92 metre upper deck. And it has engines which are the GP7200s with a 70,000 pound thrust. Maximum range 8,000 nautical miles. Cruising speed is 0.85 Mach. Altitude, oh dear. Well, we've hit our first problem, because quite clearly it does say there, if we can sort of zoom in, 43,100 feet, and that's its cruising altitude. That may not be indicative of its absolute ceiling height. But they're saying, well, no, you're not allowed to fly that high. They are only allowed to fly just under this altitude. This is supposedly from the Flat Earth Society at 36,000 feet. Now, they're also saying that in addition to this, the windows on commercial aircraft are small and heavily curved. Even if they flew high enough for a person to see the curvature, it would still not be visible to passengers. Well, this is something of a problem, because to debunk this, all you need to do is close your hand into a circle and look through it, and you can see way off into the distance. Somehow I don't think aircraft windows are that small, and I'm pretty sure I can see things way off into the distance. So that's not true either. Now, let's get to this whole business about the sun, because I was sort of digressing here. Now, this is what's hilarious about this. If we can go to where it says about the sun. I actually did have this somewhere. The main page, is it? Where are we? The cosmos. There we are. And we click on that, about the sun. The sun main page. Let's zoom in and let's get debunking this dung heap of a website. This is incredible. And there's only one thing really they have right here, and that's that they say that the sun is a rotating sphere. Well, it is, and it does rotate, so that much is sort of correct. But here's where this gets crazy. It says it has a diameter of 32 miles and is located approximately 3,000 miles above the surface of the Earth. Well, this is a problem. And if we go back to our previous screen, let's just get back to that. And we can see the lovely model. We just sort of turn our camera slightly. There we can see our lovely model that they have of the sun and its failed counterpart there. And apparently this is 32 miles above the surface of the Earth. Right, okay. No, sorry, not 32 miles above the surface of the Earth. It's 3,000 miles above with a diameter of 32 miles. So let's move to a picture of the United Kingdom. Now, this isn't to scale, but this is just an example for you of where I'm going with this. What you're looking at here is a sort of brief outline of the highways or road network within the United Kingdom. This here, what we're seeing, is what's known as the London Orbital Motorway, or the M25. Now, that has a rough sort of diameter of about 40 to 50 miles. So this so-called flying spotlight sun that flat earthers seem to think that we kind of have above our heads will fit within that. Now, this is the M25 motorway. In the United States, this would be known as a beltway or a freeway. But apparently, anyway, the sun is meant to fit within that. This poses a problem for a number of reasons, and we can sort of have a look at that now. If we go to a Wikipedia page, now normally I don't bother with Wikipedia, but in this case it can be fairly useful. And we're looking at something here about a neutron star. Now, neutron stars are basically collapsed giant stars that have giant stars that have gone supernova, exploded, and left remnants. So almost a similar sort of kind of mass heading towards that of a black hole. Now let's have a just kind of read of what it says here. And just at the top, where it says a neutron star is the collapsed core of a giant star, which before collapse had a total mass of between 10 and 29 solar masses, which would be 10 to 29 times that of our Sun. Neutron stars are the smallest and densest stars, not counting black holes. Hypothetical white holes, quark stars, and strange stars. Neutron stars have a radius on the order of 10 kilometres, about 6.2 miles, and a mass lower than 2.16 solar masses. They result from the supernova explosion of a massive star, combined with gravitational collapse that compresses the core past a white dwarf star density to that of atomic nuclei. Now, this is a problem, because flat earthers are saying that for a start, their hypothetical sun with a 32-mile diameter is going to be in the order of about 5 times to 6 times the sort of size of this neutron star. That can't happen. And apparently it would have to have, 2.16 solar masses, which would be just absolutely astronomical at that sort of distance. Now, here's where things kind of get interesting. Because neutron stars that can be observed are very hot and typically have a surface temperature of around 600,000 Kelvin. That's extremely hot. And they are so dense that a normal-sized matchbox, and we actually have a matchbox here, if this contained neutron star material, this would have an approximate weight, get this, of 3 billion metric tons. The same weight as a half cubic kilometre chunk of the Earth, where it's a cube with each edge around 800 meters in diameter. Well, 800 meters of each edge. So if that's the case, then that flying sun that we have 3,000 miles above our head, just that matchbox would weigh, a matchbox amount of that sun would weigh 3 billion metric tons. And this thing is meant to be 32 miles in diameter. Okay. Now, this goes on as well. It says that their magnetic fields are between 10 to the power 8 and 10 to the power 15, which is 100 million to 1 quadrillion times stronger than that of Earth's magnetic field. The gravitational field at a neutron star surface is 2 times 10 to the power of 11, or 200 billion times that of Earth's gravitational field. So, just to put this into perspective for you, their so-called sun would have a gravitational pull, a gravitational field of that of 200 billion times that of what we have on Earth. And this thing is meant to be revolving around us? Right, okay, let's look at that again. There's the sort of simplified animation of the day and night cycle of the flat Earth lunacy cycle. There we are. So the tidal forces of that would rip this planet apart completely. I mean, completely apart. If that object has 200 billion times that of the gravitational pull of this planet, yeah. Okay. Now, bearing in mind, well, they're depicting the moon being in equilibrium with that. So we have to assume then that what they're saying is that the moon has an equal mass, which would give us around 400 billion times. You're talking of the same sort of gravitational effects that a black hole would pretty much have. Okay. Seems legit. But we can go further with this. Now, here what we have is with regards to the height, or rather the distance of where we are to this perceived sun, they're saying is around 3,000 miles. Well, let's have a look at that now. Well, I think about the closest I could find to a point that's easily demonstrable was London to Bar Harbour in Maine, with a distance of 3,071 miles. We can look at that on the map. There we are. So there's Maine in the continental US. There we are. And if we zoom out, there's London. So in a straight upward direction, that sun that is meant to be flying around us is that distance. Right. Okay. That poses serious problems for this theory, because, well, 200 billion times Earth gravitational field at that sort of distance? Yeah, I would kind of say you're going to get spaghettified. And spaghettified is actually a scientific term for what would happen if you encountered such a force field or such a gravitational field. You would be literally stretched like spaghetti. and you would just be coiled around it. Now, if it's a black hole, you would just simply be coiled around it until you were taken through the event horizon and crushed into a singularity, and every single atom and component of you would be stripped to essentially nothing, to where not even light can escape. So basically, yeah, neutron stars are not really that far off that of black holes. Not really. But this kind of quagmire gets worse. The sort of noise that these people have been making, this flat earth movement, it kind of gets worse. Let's move this forward a bit. And let's raise another particular problem. You see, I happened to ask a particular flat earther about this problem. And where was it? It was on here somewhere. I just need to find the... there we are. Here's the page. Let's see, YouTube video. We're coming back to that quickly. And let's just sort of look at the replies. So I say, on this Flat Earth Clues interview 237, can someone within the Flat Earth movement explain just what's fueling the sun, how it's getting its energy, and what method of energy conversion is being used? Well, I get a reply from an individual by the name of El Papo de Flores, who says, of course we can't. Surely you'll get answers and theories based upon different sources, but nobody knows. If you're on the fence, I suggest you test the basis of all of this with solid experiments. Well, Mr. Papo de Flauta, we can, okay? We've been launching stuff up into space now for decades. And just recently, there was the Juno mission, and of course, even more recently, the Parker Probe mission, which was to actually take measurements of the sun within a few million miles or so. So we indeed can take measurements of this. Now, again, you turn around and say, Mr. Papo de Flores, nobody knows what fuels the sun. Yes, we do. You lying little swine. Yes, we know what fuels the sun. It's called gravitational hydrogen fusion reaction. The last time I knew it was, the sun fuses hydrogen, hydrogen nuclei, it fuses that, and you get helium. As the sun sort of reaches the end of its life, because at the moment it's within its normal, well, it's an intermediate star, as it's known as. It's within its normal life, intermediate life. As it ages, and it runs out of hydrogen, because it's a finite source, it starts to try and fuse helium. And that's when these stars get a problem. Now, this isn't due to happen for maybe a couple of billion years or so. And once the star starts fusing helium, you kind of get a problem. Because then it begins to expand, and essentially then you go into red giant mode. Now, the sun isn't big enough to go supernova. But if it was 10 times bigger than what it is, then it could. And basically, what happens is as you fuse helium, you create heavier and heavier elements. Until the point that a star fuses, well, attempts to fuse iron. And iron doesn't fuse. And the star can no longer support its own weight underneath a gravitational force, and the star collapses in on itself. When that happens, you get a tremendous almighty bang. This is known as supernova. And the really big ones, I mean like pistol star size and bigger, they go hypernova. Now, with the sun, that's not going to happen. Don't worry about that. And by the time that does happen, if it ever was to, which it won't, well, that's not going to happen for billions of years anyway, by which time humans will probably already be dead or have evolved into something else or have moved from the planet. And even before the sun does die in any way, well, the Earth would probably be consumed, because as the sun starts to swell, and this it will do, as it goes red giant, it'll grow to at least one astronomical unit. In other words, it'll most likely swallow the Earth. But the sun, as we said, is only a tenth of the size it needs to be to go nova. So all that'll happen is it'll just start trying to fuse helium, burn through its sources, and it'll just blast off its outer shell. And it'll just retract into a white dwarf and a shadow of its former self, and just fizzle out in a sort of cosmic kind of fart, if you will. A fairly boring and sedate way to go out, a graceful way to go. But a white dwarf will carry on for billions of years, potentially. And its mass would be seriously high. Now, I'm assuming that flat earthers, I'm going to assume, are possibly going to try and claim that that sun that they have on their model is a white dwarf. Well, that poses another problem, because it's the wrong colour. You see, when you fuse hydrogen to the level and the size of our star, it produces orange-reddy hues. We know this. Now again, various space probes have been launched, and we've taken measurements of this. So we know full well that the sun is fueled by hydrogen. We know this. And again, this is an experiment that has been also tested at the Large Hadron Collider. We know this. We've done the research on this. So, Mr. Flat Earthers or Flurfers, whatever you want to